So you guys have a recorded lecture after this. And where did I put my shield? I must have put it outside. Hold on. I'll be back. All right, we're back to this.
Your name on it.
My name was on it. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's just so great to be back in person. It's been 2 years since I've been in this room. So it just feels so much better than Zooming. So great to see your faces, and I'll get to learn your face and name. Last year, I don't remember half of my students, which is so sad. Usually I know everybody by name and I remember them for years to come. But last year was just so weird. Anyway, well, welcome everybody. My name is Pam Ishmael. I'll be your main professor for the class and the lab. So you'll see a lot of me this year. And also we will have a couple of guest lectures, but mainly the main guest lecture is going to be Gary Raynexis, who's going to teach you GC and MS. Other than that, we might have intermittent guest lectures as needed, but otherwise I'm your main instructor. So I will go through the first few minutes here or half of the lecture into introductions. Introducing the class, a little bit about the lab and the requirements and all of that. So first of all, you have a Canvas website. It's been updated, and I just realized that I had a couple of errors in the syllabus. So I updated it this morning and posted the correct syllabus. It just had a little bit of wording about virtual labs from last year. So I removed that. All labs are going to be in person. So make sure you look at the new syllabus. So here's the first page, and there's the general information. Here, we're always going to meet here for lecture. I record lectures so that you will have them later on to listen to. This has always been my kind of way to do things. It's not because of COVID. I always record my lectures. And then labs are going to be mainly in ABLMS 135, but next week's lab is going to be in the computer room because we're going to learn a computer program for nutrition labeling. So that would be room 220 and by the main office of the FSCN building. So like I said, I'll be your instructor. You can reach me by email anytime. I'm really good at answering emails around the clock. And I also put on my calendar Tuesdays. If you've looked at it before and it said Friday, that's remnant from last year. So I updated it again today, I realized. So it is going to be Tuesdays from 3 to 4. I'll be in my office, so you can stop in if you have questions. Otherwise, if 3 to 4 doesn't work for you, you can always have another time to meet with me by appointment. Like I said, Gary will be teaching about 4 lectures in total, 2 GC and 2 MS lectures. And we are introducing a new lab coordinator. Our former lab coordinator is retired and she's been with us for a few years. However, we're glad to introduce Kat. Kat is our new lab coordinator. Kat sat in this, not in this room, in Zoom last year, took the class. And so she's very familiar with the material, and she will be our lab coordinator this year. So, so that's the new face. And we have a few teaching assistants. They're also hand selected to be the best of the best. So we have Laura Eckert here. She took the class in this room 2 years ago and TA'd the class last year. So she's a pro. Brigida, also took the class in this room and TA'd it last year. So both are very proficient in this class. We have a newcomer. Where is Nigel? There he is. Nigel is TAing. He has not taken my class, but he took it somewhere else. But he's very capable and he'll be helping out as one of our TAs this semester. We do have another helper that you will be seeing her once in a while. Her name is Leslie Lear, and she will be helping as needed. You'll get to know her when she comes to the lab. So there's a little bit about the course description and objective, which I'd like you to learn to familiarize yourself, but I'm not going to go through them now. What I'll do is I'll go through a little bit of the syllabus with you. Oh, before that, I'm just going to go through COVID safety guidelines. So it's a little bit relaxed than last year, but we still have guidelines. And the guidelines is wearing masks the whole time. And as I'm teaching, I wear a shield. I'm allowed to do that instead of a mask. And also in the lab, you will be wearing a mask the whole time. Last year, students were wearing masks and shields. So it was a little bit of intense, but this year you're only requested to wear a mask, and also we don't have to do like the social distancing that we had to do last year. So it's a little bit relaxed, but you do what you're comfortable with in terms of distancing, but you know, working in the lab, you're working mostly in a group, so not a lot of distancing there. But we still ask you to take the precautions. Make sure you don't have a fever before you come to class. If you have any symptoms, just to let us know ahead of time and do not come until you test. So we'd like to still keep those precautions to make sure everybody is safe. So that goes for lecture and lab. So, of course, no eating or drinking in the class. In the past, in this room, people, because it's around lunchtime, people used to bring their lunch in it, and I don't really mind it at all. But because you have to be wearing your mask, I prefer that you eat before you come to class and not have, of course, if you want to drink, definitely take off your mask and do so, but don't have lunch here. Unfortunately, you can't do that this year. Lab, of course, we will ask you to wash hands when you come in and sanitize your hands. So that would be something, kind of a protocol. Wearing masks, you will be asked to wear gloves when you're handling lab equipment and lab supplies or utensils. Sometimes you have to wear safety glasses. We will indicate when that is necessary. You will be required to wear a lab coat. You already got an email from Kat requesting size. Please do respond if you haven't done so already, so that we have lab coat of your size ready for you. Not next week, you don't need them, the week after. You keep your personal items under the bench. We'll go over that more in the lab, and no eating or drinking in the lab at all. We keep the water bottles outside the lab for you to drink. And I appreciate it if you come 5 to 10 minutes early, because you need to settle, we need to check your lab notebook, we need to make sure that you are ready to go. So if you're able, I know that there's food chemistry in the morning. So for some of you are in food chemistry, so just, you know, come straight after that. And those of you that don't have class, please try to come a little early to get you settled. Okay, so that is the COVID kind of related information. And then a little bit about the syllabus to navigate it. I'd like you to read the syllabus. It is lengthy, but it has information that will be beneficial to you for this class. I would just brush over important things today. We already introduced the coordinator and the TAs, and here's the class description. And then I've got a lot of emails regarding textbook requirement. For some reason, it was not provided to the libraries or to the bookstores. I don't know why, it just got missed in cracks somewhere. But these are the required textbooks. You have the food analysis textbook. You want to make sure you have the 5th edition, not any older edition, because things change over time. So we followed this book. And then the textbook, the manual is the third edition. So again, not a previous edition, you need the third edition. So I did place an order with the bookstore for this to be available for you. But I just also want to tell you that these books and this book and manual are available to you through the library online. So you can actually access them. If you don't want to purchase the books, I highly recommend keeping them because no matter where you work in the future, these are good references to have, to own on your bookshelf. So it would be good for you to have, but again, if you don't want to buy it, you should have access to them through the library. But it would be handy to have the manual because sometimes in the lab, you need your manual to open and flip through and take notes and be able to follow directions. Okay. Suggested references, you will be potentially looking at these references when you're writing your lab report, you're searching for information relevant to the report. So these would be suggested references to look at. In terms of instructional material, I always post my slides on Canvas. So the way it goes, so if you go to Canvas and then you go to, let's see here, modules. So if you go to modules, you will find the general information on the top, and then under every week, you'll find lecture material folder. When you click on that, you'll find the lectures that will be covered in this particular week. I make it available as we go. Sometimes if I forget to make it available to students, a quick email, so Pam, can you unhide it? I will do so, but I try to remember. Okay, so if we go to modules again, there's also under each week, you'll find, so for example, I put the COVID safety guidelines here for you as a reference, but you also find recorded lectures. So these are not available for you because they are from previous years, but I will put up this one and I'll call it 2021. So you'll know this is the recorded lecture for this semester. So sometimes if I forget recording or if for some reason I can't be here, I'm traveling, there will be recording from previous years. I'll put that up for you. So you'll find that information, and also you'll find a folder that is called lab material. Okay, so in there you'll find all the information that you need for lab, and I will make it available every Friday because I make sure that I update material and it's there for you. So that's what you will find in every week, and sometimes there is an extra credit assignment. You'll find it here. So you'll find all you need week by week, basically. Here on the top, you'll find general information. So you have the syllabus schedule and student learning outcome. So I updated the syllabus like 2 times, so it's right there. And the course schedule and also the student learning outcome. Let's look quickly at the course schedule here. There. So here it tells you, what lecture will be covered and what lab will be covered when. And also it would tell you when you have a quiz or a midterm. So the quiz is preset here, quiz 1, and then the midterm, and then there is quiz 2. And then the final is going to be just before Christmas. Like, can you imagine this? December 20th, really? And I'll be grading 2 days after that. So anyway, so it's set for Monday, 8 to 10, sharp in the morning. Okay, so that's the schedule. And then another important document you have available for you is the student learning outcomes. So for every section, so when you study for a quiz or you study for a midterm, you can go to this reference and say, do I know, let's say this is overall, but do I understand food analysis in quality control management, research, development? Can I identify criteria needed to select a method of analysis? So when you study, then you go to see if you can explain, identify, develop, differentiate, etc. So this is a good kind of study guide. After you study, you go in and see, check your knowledge there. Of course, there is general student learning outcome of the entire class, and it's a lab class. So most of the learning occurs in the lab, and we always try our best to make it a good learning experience for you, the laboratory is, and we hope that you find it that way. We hope that you find it as rewarding as the lecture material, if not better. So the lab is a big component of this class. Okay, so please navigate through this on your own. Let's see, let's go back to Canvas here. And modules. So there's lab information and guide. This is also important. I'll go through that. Who is this gentleman?
Someone's late. Michael.
You're Michael? Okay, thank you, got you. All right. All right, so the lab information, this is very important for the lab, and I'll go through this in detail next week during lab, what documents you really need to look at before you start writing your lab report. But all you need here in terms of general information, you can find under this folder. Okay, so going back. Sample quizzes and exam. This is really handy. And I try to, provide as much resources for you to succeed in this class as possible. And one of these resources is giving you examples of set of quizzes and exams from last year. So you'll find them here. So these were all last year's quizzes and exam. I don't post the final, don't ask me to do that. But at least this is going to give you, be helpful throughout the semester, and the final questions are very similar to what you would see in the midterm, but with the additional information. So what I encourage you to do is to study first. Second, to look at the quiz, for example, before you look at the key. And try to solve the questions yourself, and then you can look at the key and see how close you are to the key. If you're close, you're good to go, ready for the quiz. Okay, so this is a check. So the questions will be different, but if you're able to answer the questions of this random quiz, then you'll be able to answer the questions of the quiz that you actually have. Okay, so please do so, use that as a resource. It's very, very helpful. Okay. We go back to modules. There's also textbook study questions here. So for every chapter, there is a set of questions. You can find them also in your textbook. I do have the key in my office, but the editor asked me not to share the key on a public website. So if you answer those and you want to check, you can always come in during office hours and I'll show you the answers. But these are also very good studying material for you, again, to succeed in this class. Another important folder is sample lab reports. Now, I don't post a sample report before you submit your report. I post it after. And why do I do that? So that you look at an example lab report and you look at your graded one and you see where it could have been improved. Then the next time you submit a lab report, you have a better idea how to put the lab report together. So this will always be posted every week after you submit your lab report. You will see a sample lab report that will help you with the next submission. We also post lab report question key, again, after you submit your lab report. And this is important because in quizzes and exam and final, I utilize some of these questions. You'll see them come. So basically, when you answer them in the lab report, then the TA, Laura, will be grading. She'll sometimes put an answer for you. Sometimes she says you see key. So then the key will be available for you. And then here I will post the quizzes in the exam key once you take the quiz boards. All right, so this is that. The other thing that you will be seeing is under assignments. So you will be asked to do pre-lab quizzes, right? On here, right? We decided to do
yes,
pre-lab quizzes, yes.
Pre-lab quiz.
So pre-lab quizzes will be under assignment for you, and this would be due at 9 a.m. before your lab. So if your lab is on a Monday, you make sure you submit it by 9 a.m. Of course, you can submit it before, but by 9 a.m. max. And then if your lab is on a Wednesday, it would be due for you by 9 a.m. on Wednesday. The other assignments that will be posted are lab reports. Lab reports will be submitted online. So you won't be submitting a hard copy. So you will be submitting an online lab report. So these are the assignments that you would see, unless there's something else that you would be informed in class about. Okay. I think this is it. And then you will obviously be able to look at your grades. We'll try to update them as much as we can. So go back to syllabus here. So this is Canvas and information regarding the lab. I will go over that in more detail next week in lab, but do read it to familiarize yourself. These are the course objectives and lecture topics and lab topics. Okay, so this is a writing intensive class. So this is very important, you guys. It's a requirement, and this is the only writing intensive in the major. You have another writing classes outside of the major, but this is the only one in the major. So it's a 4-credit class, it's a lab class, and it's a writing intensive class. So it's a little bit intense, but manageable, trust me. Okay, so, but the writing intensive meaning that you have a lab report to submit every week, right? But 4 of these lab reports are longer, and we'll talk about that in lab next week. So they require you to write a little bit more than the other lab reports. However, the university offers help with writing. So there's the writing center, and we give you enough time to submit the lab report so that you can write it and go to the writing center to check it. Writing is going to be part of the grade. So there is part of the grade of the lab report will be on how you constructed the writing of your lab report. So utilize the help if you need it so that your grade is not impacted. Here's the distribution of points, and you can see that lab is important. Lab reports alone is 280 points, almost equivalent to the exams, the midterm and the final. So really, if you do well in lab reports, you'll do well in general in class. So these are important. There is pre-lab quizzes, 50 points. We'll talk about them more later. And laboratory notebook, make sure you have a lab notebook before next week. You will be asked to watch a video related to the lab and take notes before you come into the lab. Your lab notebook will be checked in the lab each time you come in to make sure you watched the videos, you took relevant notes. This will help you and hopefully make the labs shorter, not a lot of instruction, but actually doing when you come into the lab. So you will be asked to present your lab notebook, and that is starting next week. So make sure you have, doesn't matter what kind, any kind you are comfortable with to take notes. There will be points for participation, involvement, and attendance. So attendance is not required except the first lecture. However, it's highly encouraged. We have discussions in the lab. Every discussion, every time you speak in the lab, you get +2. Whether you say something wrong or something right. I don't want you to be shy. You don't know the material. It's okay not to have the correct answer, but talk. And this is the time we talk to each other and we converse. You can ask a question. Yes, Laura?
You said in lab, but you meant in lecture.
Oh, in lecture, did I say
You said
lab?
lab, yeah.
Okay.
When you speak in lecture.
In lecture, yes. Sorry. So yes, in lecture, so if you ask a question, if you answer a question, if you had a comment, it's a +2 towards your participation. The first few days, say your name before you participate so that Nigel can record the participation for you. Okay, so you can earn up to 30 points in participation. So 15 times you speak in the class gets you 30 points. The other 20 points is subjective. I would assess your involvement overall during the entire semester, whether it's in lecture, in lab, your enthusiasm, your participation overall, you get those 20 points. So quizzes and exams, you have 2 quizzes, and usually kind of the quizzes break the material so that you study for half the material before the exam. So it kind of gives you, like, instead of having to study all the material new for the midterm, you have these 2 quizzes in the middle of the semester. So make up only with excuse and university approved excuse. So you can notify me and we'll work to get that made up. And we'll talk about lab reports later in lab next week. There will be extra credit opportunities and a lot of it. Sometimes I tell you, just pull up a piece of paper and solve these problems in class. After you solve them, you turn it in and you get +2 for that. There's a lot of opportunity, and please do take advantage of that, because sometimes a student grade is B+, but a couple of points will bring you to A-. I look at the extra credit and bump you from B+ to A-. So they're very, very beneficial and helpful at the same time. And sometimes I walk in, I look at the class and I say, everybody in class will get +10 today. So attend. It's going to be random. Okay. So this is the distribution of grades. We have 790 points in total. That's a lot of points, but at the end of the day, they're out of 100, and this is the scale for the letter grade. And there's a lot of information regarding a lot of different policies and COVID regulations here in the syllabus. So that is syllabus material. Okay, we can go now and start going through what I have for you today. A lot of it is introduction, and we already went through Canvas. We talked about syllabus and distribution of grades, writing intensive, textbook, everything in there. The adjustment this semester is different than last year. Like I said, we will take safety into consideration, but it's mostly almost back to normal. The only thing we are keeping from last year is watching the videos and coming to the lab prepared. A lot of the students last year actually found this very beneficial and recommended that we keep that beyond COVID. So they come to the lab, they know what they're doing. And then there's not a lot us talking to you in the lab. You already heard the material, you took your notes, you're ready to go. So we're keeping that this year, and hopefully we'll keep it for future years as well. We talked about student learning outcome. We'll talk about lab specifics next week. And we already mentioned all of the other previous quizzes, sample lab reports. There used to be a project for this class. I like to keep it here and put no project this year so that you're happy that I removed this. I like you to be happy, because this was recommendation from students that took the class before. They said, this should be a 5-credit course with the project. So we can't make it a 5-credit course, so I removed the project. I still feel though it was a great learning experience for the student, where they pick a food product, they look at the ingredients, they tell me what are the tests that you need to do, quality tests for the ingredients, and then tests during processing and analytical tests on the final product. So it was a year-long project, and we had I had a lot of fun with it. And at the end of the year, the semester, students benefited a lot from it, but felt it's kind of an overkill for a 4-credit writing intensive and lab class. So I removed it, but I kept on Canvas an example of a project for you just to look at for fun. If you like, you have the time. Of course, you're seniors, you have plenty of time to waste. But yeah, if you get time, you can have a look. Okay. About this course, what did you hear? Let's see. Did you hear that it's a hard course? Tough? Wow. Nobody says no. So, well, you're right. I should admit it. Okay, so it's not easy. It is challenging. I won't call it hard. I would call it challenging. Again, it's one of the challenging classes in the major just because of its nature. So it is 3 lectures, a lab 3 hours, and writing intensive. So naturally, it's a little bit more challenging, but we're here to help you. Like, don't get intimidated. Just ask questions, come to me for help. You have 3 wonderful TAs, and you have a wonderful lab coordinator. We are a crew that are here to help you. Well, Brigida is running away. She said, I'm not helping you anymore. She has a pilot plant trial. Okay, is it going to haunt you at night? Yes. To an extent. But yeah, you might be thinking about the class a lot, but you know, some of you are going to enjoy it, I can promise you, and the rest of you are going to appreciate it at some point in life. Maybe not this semester, maybe in 5 years from now, but you'll find it, you know, useful. Challenging, we said. Boring. To some of you, it might. To me, it's absolutely not, except for a couple of subjects that I really don't like. You're going to guess which subjects I don't like, because those subjects that I like, I'm, you know, talking to you with excitement, and those that I don't like, I'll be like standing here, trying to remember what I'm supposed to say. So there are a couple of lectures like that. So maybe at the end of the semester, you can tell me which ones they were. So some of you, analysis is not your thing, which is okay. You know, bear with us. You will learn something, but I'm not expecting that everybody's going to love the material. It's just personal. Some of you, to the same extent, some of you will find it interesting. Is it useless? I mean, maybe some of you might think so. I hope not, a lot of you. But it's really beneficial in a sense. It's going to cover a lot of different topics that are relevant for you. And I try to give you examples from industry perspective, not just from research perspective. So when you go out and become professional, you'll find some information that's been useful. So that is a promise that I make, and you can hold me accountable for that. All right. There will be a lot of these questions to allow you to kind of participate. And starting now, you can participate, raise your hand, and Nigel will be putting a check for a +2. All right, not everybody at the same time though. Okay, so food analysis include chemical analysis and characterization of food components, physical analysis of food, microbiological analysis, sensory analysis. Raise your hand, state your name. State your name. Lenny? Okay. It is all of the above. Thank you, Lenny. Yes. Analysis of food is everything. Everything related to testing of food. It doesn't matter what it is, microbial, sensory, physical. But in this class, we're going to focus on it. We're going to do a lot of chemical characterization and analysis. We're going to learn methods. We're going to learn analytical instruments. You're going to actually do these analyses in the lab, but you have a different class for micro, a different class for sensory. So that is not covered in this class. All right, food composition analysis is carried out. Before you answer, I need somebody to tell me what is meant by food composition. What do we analyze? Yes, Drew. So flavor profile. Okay, so the flavor metabolites or compounds. These are, yeah, composition. What else?
Structure and texture.
Structure and texture would not be part of the composition. It is part of food analysis, though. State your name.
My name is Grace.
Grace.
Yes.
Absolutely, macro and micronutrients. So we'll be doing a lot of that. Macro, fat, protein, moisture, carbohydrate, and micro, minerals, vitamins. Michael, what did you want to say? You get +2 for that. All right. Okay, see how easy it is? Just stop. All right. So, what's that?
You just lie at that point, they get it right. Even if they get it wrong, they're like, oh, I was gonna say that. Like,
It's okay. You still get
you're
+2.
playing the system at that point.
I don't care. Play me. Play the system. You just get points. Just stop. Okay, so food composition analysis is carried out to meet consumer demand, to meet government requirements, to determine nutritional benefit, for quality control. Gretchen, you had your hand up. All of the above. Sandy, say your name. Say the name again. I don't know, I can't hear, but Zoe! Oh my gosh, I even told her I know you, but it seems like I don't. Okay, all right, all of the above, of course, and we're gonna talk about examples of all of these. Okay, so why do we analyze food? So we're going to talk about why it's important from different perspectives, from a consumer perspective, from industry perspective, from government perspective. So this is important information to set the stage for what you're going to learn the next of the semester or the entire of the semester. So it really sets the stage. So please pay attention. So consumers, what happened? I went up. So from a consumer perspective, what do consumers care about that we need to analyze for? Let's see, page.
Texture, like taste.
Texture and taste. Yes. Yeah. What were you going to say? Say your name. Dara. Huh? Safety. Okay, sorry with the mask. I'm so sorry. Okay, safety. Brittany.
They care about color and also like overall liking of the product.
Liking of the product, definitely. Gretchen. Nutritional benefit. What was your name? You got a name? I really can't. By the third table, I can't hear anything. Drew, what else? Cost, you said?
You might have to like change your.
Aha, that's a creative way. That's a creative answer. Sajua. What's that? Nothing. Quality, yes. So a lot of the aspect of texture, sensory, liking, so that also all go under quality. So yes, quality is important to consumer. So we have a saying back in my country, say the eyes eat before the mouth, right? So the appearance is important. Appearance, the texture when we eat it, the taste, and also you said, let's see, safety. You said safety, is it going to be safe from a microbial perspective, but also you're going to learn in one of the chapters, contaminants of concern. So we're going to talk about maybe melamine or nitrogen compounds, nitrosamines, for example. So compounds that could have adverse effect on us. So chemical compounds. So we're going to have a whole chapter on those. Heavy metals, for example. So this is really important for the consumer. And you mentioned nutrition. Nutrition is very important. So first of all, we need to get our minimum requirement of minerals, of vitamins, of proteins. We don't need the fat, do we? But still, fatty acids are sometimes essential fatty acids. So we need to get our nutrients requirement, but there's also nutrients or components that have a health benefit, not necessarily a nutritional benefit. So when we say there is a health claim that is approved, that is related to coronary heart disease. So which one of these would be related either in a good way or a bad way to coronary heart disease? Tell me your name. Ellery, yeah. You want to go with all of the above. Hold the thought. Any other? You go at you say your name again. Cheyenne, beautiful name. Go ahead.
I'd say saturated fats.
Saturated fat. Good answer, Shri.
I was gonna say
A and C. Hold that thought. Elisa. A and C. Okay, so it's time for me to answer. It is A and B. Why it is A and B? So saturated fat is not good for us. So we want to consume minimal amount of saturated fat. Polyunsaturated fat would be greater for us. Phytochemicals are components in food. Sometimes they're antioxidants like carotenoids, for example. So these are good for heart disease. They're good. They're antioxidants, anti-inflammatory. We call them phytochemicals. They come from plants. Okay, so that's why these two are related. Free fatty acids is not related to coronary heart disease, except if you have secondary oxidation metabolite, which we'll learn about that later, like malonylaldehyde that comes from oxidation of fat. But free fatty acids by themselves, no. Where do we care about analysis of free fatty acids? In which instances we care about free fatty acids? For what reasons? When do we measure free fatty acids? Or why do we care about free fatty acids? Food chemistry, folks, has anybody taken food chemistry prior to this class? Do you remember? Michael remembers.
Rancidity?
Yes, yes. Hydrolytic rancidity is one big example. Hydrolytic, not oxidative. Hydrolytic rancidity meaning your fat has broken down into fatty acids. So presence of fatty acids is an indication of hydrolytic rancidity. So we will have a whole chapter on fat characterization. Also, presence of free fatty acids in oils is an indication of the oil not being refined. So virgin olive oil, does that mean? Versus refined olive oil. In virgin olive oil, you have a lot of free fatty acids. And free fatty acids are more prone to oxidation than triglycerides. Okay, so we will learn a lot about that in chapter of fat characterization. So it's not relevant to heart disease claim, but it's relevant for quality for different reasons. All right, food industry. Why do we analyze food? If you work in an industry that produces food, why do we have to have a research group or an analytical group? Yes, Paige.
For storage.
Shelf life?
Yeah, shelf life.
Yes, Sandy?
Kind of like what you were saying, like the cost of the ingredients.
Yes, absolutely. Tell me your name again. Caitlin. Quality, maintaining consistent quality. Did you have your hand up? No, Shri had Shri.
It was cost again.
Oh, what is it?
It was gonna be cost again, so yeah.
+2. Say your name again. Sarah. Nutrition labeling, absolutely. They have to produce that nutrition label. Shenyu. Okay, I got ingredients and I got products, no? For product development, absolutely, Drew. on the line for adulteration, and on the line also to determine if the processing is going well. So online analysis. Yes, Drew is going to get all of his participation in one day.
That's the goal.
I was gonna say check for adulteration.
Yes, so all of what you said is great, and I have an example for each one of what you said. Okay, so quality, you mentioned that, the product quality, consistency in appearance, consistency in color, consistency in texture, consistency in attributes, all of that. Product development, I'll give you an example about when you need to do that. This is to these, the food industry make sure that they do analysis for these two categories to meet consumer demand. Consumers always require the best quality. They always are on the lookout for what is new, what can be new food to try. So always we are developing new foods and food ingredients. Evaluate new processes. So we're changing an equipment in the plant. How does that impact our food product or food ingredient? I'll give you an example. Also, you mentioned cost. Sometimes you have to reevaluate the ingredients that you add and maybe try to get a cheaper ingredient to put in, and you don't want to change quality and consistency. So you monitor for that. And sometimes you get a more efficient equipment to put on the line. So you want to determine how that impacted your food. Solve problems, customer complaints all the time. You are, let's say you're an ingredient company. You sell your ingredient to a CPG company, producer, and they produce something that is faulty. They come back to you and tell you it's your fault. It's your ingredient. So you have to solve that problem. And sometimes we call it food forensics. So it's like a detective work. You want to try to figure out, is it my ingredient for sure? Is it the processes that you're doing? Is it something faulty on the line? So it's kind of food forensic, and I'll give you examples about that. And competition is a big deal in food industry. And one of the applications for learning nutrition label next week in the lab is to take a competitor product, look at the ingredients, and try to formulate based on the ingredient and the nutrition label. So back formulate to figure out their formula so that you can produce something that competes with them that is better. So competition, always the case. And finally, following government regulations. So you do have to analyze some ingredients or food products has standard of identity. So for example, milk and cheese and certain bread, they have a standard of identity, how much fat or protein or moisture it should have. So you need to have those analyses to make sure you're following the government regulations. Time is up. Can you imagine? I can't imagine. You probably can't imagine. Okay, so a great seeing you, and we'll see you again on Friday. Have a great day.